Carlo Acutis was no ordinary teenager. His deep faith and incredible use of technology to spread God's message continue to inspire people worldwide. In this video, we'll explore the miraculous events surrounding his life, his powerful intercession, and how he became a modern-day saint for our generation. Stay with us until the end to discover how Carlo's legacy can touch your life too. And if you have a prayer request, feel free to share it in the comments below, asking for his intercession. The miraculous healing of a young girl through the intercession of Carlo Acutis. Imagine being a mother, watching your child fighting for her life after a devastating accident. The doctor's prognosis is grim, with little hope for recovery. You feel helpless, overwhelmed, and desperate, longing for a miracle. This was the reality for a mother from Costa Rica, whose daughter had suffered a severe head injury while riding her bicycle in Florence, Italy. The doctors had little optimism for the girl's survival. Even if she did survive, they warned, she would likely face permanent brain damage that would drastically alter her quality of life. But, as the Bible says in Luke 1 verse 37, "For nothing will be impossible with God." In this moment of crisis, the girl's mother turned to her faith, believing that God could make a way where there seemed to be no way. Filled with hope and a powerful trust in divine intervention, the mother traveled to Assisi, the resting place of Carlo Acutis, a young man whose story had already inspired countless believers around the world. With a heart full of faith, she prayed fervently at Carlo's tomb, leaving behind a letter asking for his intercession on behalf of her daughter. She believed in the words of Philippians 4 verse 6, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." And then, the unthinkable happened. After her heartfelt prayer at Carlo's tomb, her daughter, who had been unresponsive, began to breathe on her own. Her recovery, which had seemed impossible, started to take shape. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. Matthew 7 verse 7. This mother's faith was rewarded in the most miraculous way. Over time, the girl's healing continued. She not only survived but also began to thrive. Today, she is on the brink of completing her studies, living the normal life that had once seemed like a distant dream. This miraculous recovery echoes the promise found in Mark 5 verse 34, when Jesus said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." This story is not just about physical healing. It's a testament to the power of faith, prayer, and the intercession of saints. Carlo Acutis, though young, has become a powerful symbol of how God works through his faithful servants to bring about miracles. As James 5 verse 16 reminds us, the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. The Bible is filled with examples of miracles born out of faith. Moses parting the Red Sea, Jesus healing the blind, and countless others. Carlo's story adds to this legacy, reminding us that God's power is not limited by time or circumstance. Just as the Israelites were led through impossible situations, this young girl's recovery is a modern-day example of God's hand at work. As you hear this story, you might wonder, is it possible for such miracles to happen in my life? The answer lies in faith. Hebrews 11 verse 1 teaches us that faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. This mother's unwavering belief opened the door for God's grace to enter, transforming despair into hope and healing. Carlo Acutis lived a life of deep faith and devotion. His passion for the Eucharist and his love for Christ inspired many, but it was his humility and closeness to God that continued to shine through his intercessions today. The Bible tells us in John 14 verses 13 to 14, "And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." The miracle surrounding this young girl's healing is a reminder that God's love and power are still alive and active in our world today. Through the prayers of those who seek his help and the intercession of saints like Carlo Acutis, lives can be transformed, and hope can be restored. Just as it says in Romans 8 verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Are you facing a challenge that seems insurmountable? Take heart in this story of faith and miraculous healing. God is still in the business of miracles, and through prayer, anything is possible. Just as this mother trusted in God's goodness, you too can bring your deepest concerns to him, knowing that he is always listening. Psalm 37 verse 5 says, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will do it." If you've been inspired by this incredible story, take a moment to reflect on how faith can move mountains in your own life. And remember, when we ask in faith, God responds in ways we could never imagine. Carlo Acutis' life and intercession remind us of this truth every day. So, keep believing, keep praying, and trust that God is working behind the scenes. Feeling inspired by this story of faith and healing? Don't miss out. Subscribe to our channel now for more uplifting stories and share this with someone who needs hope today. Carlo Acutis and his impact on the digital age. Carlo Acutis was no ordinary teenager. Born in 1991, he grew up in a world rapidly changing with technology. But what set him apart was how he used this technology for a higher purpose. While most teens his age were absorbed in video games and social media, Carlo had a vision far beyond his years. He wanted to use the internet to bring people closer to God. Like Paul in 1 Corinthians 9 verse 22, who said, "I have become all things to all people so that by all possible means I might save some." Carlo sought to evangelize using the tools of his generation. At the age of just 11, Carlo embarked on a monumental project, documenting Eucharistic miracles around the world and creating a website to make them accessible to everyone. He believed that by sharing these miracles, he could ignite faith in the hearts of people, especially young people, who were becoming increasingly distant from the church. This initiative was rooted in Carlo's deep love for the Eucharist, which he saw as the ultimate connection between humanity and the divine. Just as Jesus said in John 6 verse 35, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Carlo's dedication to this project was nothing short of remarkable. He spent countless hours researching, compiling information, and designing a website that could reach people from all walks of life. His work wasn't about gaining recognition or fame. It was about serving God and sharing his love with others. In Matthew 5 verse 16, we are reminded, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Carlo truly embodied this verse, using his talents not for personal gain, but to glorify God. What made Carlo's work so powerful was his ability to bridge the gap between faith and modern technology. He saw the internet not as a distraction, but as a tool for evangelization. In a world where skepticism and doubt often overshadow belief, Carlo offered tangible evidence of God's miracles through his website. He believed that by showing these miracles to the world, he could help rekindle faith in those who had lost it. In Romans 10 verse 17, it says, "Faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Christ." Carlo's work was a modern-day manifestation of this verse, bringing the message of Christ to the digital age. Carlo was not only a technological prodigy, but also a spiritual guide for his peers. He lived his faith every day, attending Mass, praying the Rosary, and devoting his life to God's service. His ability to balance the fast-paced world of technology with a deep spiritual life is a lesson for all of us today. As it says in Colossians 3 verse 17, "And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." Carlo's entire life was a testament to this verse, showing that no matter what we do, we can glorify God through our actions. Carlo's story challenges us to rethink how we use technology in our daily lives. Are we using it to spread love, hope, and faith, or are we letting it distract us from our spiritual calling? In 1 Peter 4 verse 10, it says, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." Carlo used his gift of technological expertise to serve others, reminding us that our skills and passions, no matter how modern or unconventional, can be used for the glory of God. As Carlo's work gained recognition, it started to inspire a movement among young people. His website on Eucharistic miracles became a beacon of light for those searching for evidence of God's presence in the world. Carlo understood that faith in today's world often needs a bridge between the seen and the unseen, and he provided that bridge. His mission was much like the Great Commission in Matthew 28 verse 19, where Jesus commands, "Therefore go and make disciples of all nations." Carlo took this command to heart, using the internet to reach people in every corner of the globe. His untimely death at the age of 15 from leukemia did not mark the end of his mission, but rather the beginning of a legacy that continues to grow. Just as it says in John 12 verse 24, "Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." Carlo's passing has inspired countless others to carry on his work, spreading the message of God's love and the miracles of the Eucharist through the digital world. Carlo Acutis' impact on the digital age is a powerful reminder that faith and technology are not mutually exclusive. Instead, they can work together to create a new path for evangelization in the 21st century. Carlo showed us that even in the fast-paced, often secular world of today, it is possible to live a life of holiness, dedication, and service to God. In Philippians 2 verse 15, it says, "Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life." Carlo's light continues to shine brightly, reminding us all of the transformative power of faith. Inspired by Carlo's use of technology to spread God's love? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and don't forget to subscribe for more uplifting stories like this one. The extraordinary life and devotion of Carlo Acutis. Carlo Acutis was born on May 3, 1991, in London, but soon moved to Milan, Italy, where his spiritual journey began. From a very young age, Carlo exhibited an unwavering faith that set him apart from his peers. At just 7 years old, after receiving his first Holy Communion, he made a life-changing decision to attend Mass every day. This commitment was not just a routine. It became the foundation of his deep relationship with God. As Proverbs 22 verse 6 reminds us, "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." Carlo's early devotion laid the groundwork for his incredible impact on the world. Carlo's spirituality was not confined to the walls of the church. He prayed the rosary daily and immersed himself in the sacred rituals of his faith. This practice gave him the strength to face life's challenges with grace and humility. His connection with God was profound, and it shaped every aspect of his life. In Matthew 6 verse 33, Jesus says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Carlo lived by this principle, always putting God at the center of his life, which allowed him to grow spiritually and help others do the same. What made Carlo even more extraordinary was that his faith was not just personal. It was something he wanted to share with the world. He believed that faith was a living, breathing reality that could be experienced in every moment of life. His passion for evangelization, even at such a young age, was evident in his daily interactions. Much like the Apostle Paul, who said in Romans 1 verse 16, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes." Carlo boldly shared his faith with everyone he encountered, young or old. While Carlo was deeply spiritual, he was also incredibly relatable to his peers. He loved technology and had a natural gift for understanding computers. Yet, instead of using technology for entertainment or distraction, Carlo saw it as a tool for evangelization. His vision was clear: to use the digital world to spread God's message of love and hope. At the age of 11, Carlo began working on his now famous project of documenting Eucharistic miracles, creating a website that cataloged these extraordinary events. In Mark 16, verse 15, Jesus commands, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." Carlo took this command seriously, using the internet to reach people globally, especially the youth. Carlo's love for the Eucharist was at the heart of his spiritual life. He believed deeply in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and wanted others to experience the same. His website on Eucharistic miracles was not just an academic project, it was a spiritual mission. He wanted to show people tangible proof of God's power in the world, much like how Jesus performed miracles to demonstrate God's love. As John 6 verse 51 says, "I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever." Carlo's work continues to inspire believers to deepen their own devotion to the Eucharist. Although Carlo's life was cut short at the age of 15 due to leukemia, his legacy of faith, love, and service endures. Throughout his illness, Carlo never wavered in his trust in God's plan. He offered his suffering for the Church and the Pope, saying, "I offer all the suffering I will have to suffer for the Lord, for the Pope, and the Church." His faith in the face of such a trial reminds us of the words in Romans 8 verse 18. "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." Carlo's unshakable faith during his illness continues to be a beacon of hope for many. Carlo's humility was one of his defining traits. Despite his extraordinary accomplishments, he remained grounded, always seeking to serve others quietly and with love. He often said, "All people are born as originals, but many die as photocopies." Carlo wanted everyone to embrace their unique gifts and use them for God's glory. This idea is beautifully reflected in 1 Peter 4 verse 10, which says, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." Carlo did exactly that, using his talents to serve both God and others. After Carlo's death, the impact of his life began to spread even more. In 2020, he was beatified by Pope Francis, who referred to Carlo as a model of holiness for the youth, particularly in our digital age. The Pope emphasized that Carlo's life is a testimony to how the internet can be used for good, especially in evangelizing and spreading faith. As Matthew 5 verse 14 reminds us, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." Carlo's light continues to shine brightly, illuminating the path for many who seek to follow Christ in a modern world. The miracles attributed to Carlo's intercession further attest to the sanctity of his life. From healing physical ailments to inspiring spiritual conversions, Carlo's influence continues to touch lives around the globe. His story reminds us that holiness is not reserved for adults or clergy but is attainable for all, even the young. In 1 Timothy 4 verse 12, Paul advises, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." Carlo set this example in every way, showing that age is no barrier to living a life dedicated to God. Carlo's journey to sainthood is a testament to his deep spirituality, his love for others, and his commitment to spreading God's message. His beatification marked a significant moment not only for his family but for the entire Church. Carlo is now recognized as a model of holiness for all, but particularly for the youth of today. As we reflect on his life, we are reminded of Philippians 4 verse 13. "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Carlo's strength came from his unwavering trust in Christ, and that strength continues to inspire people of all ages. Now, with his canonization, Carlo's influence has become even more widespread. People from all over the world flock to his tomb, seeking his intercession and finding hope in his story. His life demonstrates that sainthood is possible in the modern world, even in a life cut short. As Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 advises, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Carlo's life is a perfect example of trusting in God's plan, even when we don't fully understand it. Feeling inspired by Carlo's life of deep faith and service? Don't miss more stories like this. Subscribe to our channel and share this video with someone who needs a spark of hope today. The miraculous event at Carlo Acutis' tomb. In the years since his passing, Carlo Acutis' tomb has become a place of pilgrimage for thousands seeking his intercession. His legacy of faith continues to inspire people from all over the world. But what happened recently at his tomb has captivated even more attention. In June 2022, a seemingly small but extraordinary event took place that left many people awestruck. Much like the miracles Jesus performed to strengthen the faith of those around him, this event served as a modern reminder of God's power. In Mark 5 verse 36, Jesus tells us, "Don't be afraid, just believe." This moment at Carlo's tomb reignited that call for belief. A rose petal, collected from a garden near Carlo's resting place, was found to be mysteriously preserved. For over 6 years, this petal remained vibrant and full of life, defying the natural laws of decay. This is no ordinary occurrence, as any flower separated from its life source would naturally wilt and fade within days. Yet, this rose petal remained as fresh as if it had just been picked, prompting many to wonder if something miraculous was happening. In Psalm 77 verse 14, it says, "You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples." The preservation of this rose petal felt like a tangible display of God's power. Intrigued by this phenomenon, a student named Louisa took the petal to her school, where she and her teacher conducted a microscopic examination. What they discovered was astonishing. The plant cells of the petal were perfectly intact, showing no signs of deterioration. It was as though time had stopped for this tiny piece of creation. In Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11, it says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." This petal, frozen in its beauty, became a symbol of the miraculous, a physical reminder of the divine hand at work in our world. But the mystery didn't stop there. Dr. Giovanni Rodrigo, a respected scientist, took the examination further and found that the vascular system of the petal, the network responsible for transporting water and nutrients, was still functioning as though the flower were still alive. This defied all scientific understanding. The discovery sent ripples through the scientific community and inspired a wave of curiosity and devotion among believers. As the Bible tells us in Job 37 verse 14, listen to this, Job, stop and consider God's wonders. This event caused many to pause and reflect on the incredible mysteries of faith. What is it about Carlo Acutis that continues to draw people to his tomb and now, through this rose petal, to witness the miraculous? Carlo's life was filled with a deep, abiding faith in God's presence in everyday life. His belief in miracles, especially those involving the Eucharist, was so strong that he devoted his energy to documenting them. And now, it seems, his own life has become the source of miracles. In John 14 verse 12, Jesus says, "Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these." Through his intercession, Carlo continues to inspire miracles even after his death. This event at Carlo's tomb is more than just a scientific anomaly. It is a reminder that miracles still happen today and that God's presence can be felt in the smallest details of life. Just as Jesus turned water into wine at the wedding in Cana, turning the ordinary into something extraordinary, this rose petal has become a symbol of God's miraculous intervention in our world. In Matthew 19 verse 26, Jesus reminds us, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." The preservation of this petal seems to defy what we know about the natural world, pointing instead to the supernatural. For those who have visited Carlo's tomb, this event serves as a powerful confirmation of their faith. It is not just about the rose petal. It's about the reminder that miracles are signs pointing us back to God. Like the miracles of old, These signs encourage us to deepen our relationship with God and to trust in His divine plan, even when we cannot fully understand it. In John 20 verse 29, Jesus said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." This miraculous rose petal invites us to believe, even if we cannot explain it with reason alone. As news of this miracle spread, more and more people began flocking to Carlo's tomb, seeking not just answers but also hope. For many, this miracle is a sign of encouragement, a reminder that in a world full of doubt and uncertainty, God is still present, still performing wonders. In Psalm 145 verse 5, it says, "They speak of the glorious splendor of your majesty, and I will meditate on your wonderful works." This is what Carlo's tomb has become, a place where the faithful can meditate on God's wonderful works and find inspiration for their own lives. This event also serves as a reminder that saints, like Carlo, are mediators through whom we can seek God's help. Just as the rose petal has remained vibrant, the faith that Carlo sparked in so many people continues to grow. Through his intercession, countless prayers have been answered, and many miracles have been attributed to him. As it says in James 5 verse 16, "The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective." Carlo's prayers, both during his life and now after his death, continue to be a powerful force for good in the world. The rose petal, though small, carries a message of hope, faith, and divine grace. It shows us that God's miracles are not limited to the pages of the Bible, but are still alive and well today. In 2 Corinthians 4 verse 18, it says, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." The preservation of this rose petal is a sign pointing us toward the eternal, reminding us that God's work is ongoing, even in ways we cannot always see. Feeling moved by this incredible miracle at Carlo Acutis' tomb? Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more faith-filled stories and share this video with someone who needs a reminder of God's miracles today. Carlo Acutis, a modern-day saint for the youth. Carlo Acutis' life, though brief, has left an enduring mark on the world, particularly for young people who are navigating their faith in a digital and often secular world. Born in 1991, Carlo lived in a time of great technological advancements, but rather than getting lost in the distractions of the modern world, he found ways to use technology to draw closer to God and to inspire others. In Matthew 5 verse 14, Jesus tells us, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Carlo was that light for his generation, showing that it is possible to live a life of holiness even in the fast-paced 21st century. From an early age, Carlo had an exceptional connection to his faith. He was deeply devoted to the Eucharist, which he called his highway to heaven. His belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist was so strong that he wanted others to experience its miraculous power as well. At just 11 years old, he began his famous project of documenting Eucharistic miracles, creating a website to make these miracles accessible to the world. In John 6 verse 35, Jesus says, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Carlo's work reflected his deep understanding and love for this truth. Carlo's passion for technology was not just a hobby, it was a calling. He saw the internet as a powerful tool for evangelization. In a time when many young people were drifting away from the church, Carlo used the very technology that could distract them to instead captivate their attention and lead them back to faith. His website documenting Eucharistic miracles became a beacon of hope, showing tangible evidence of God's presence in the world. In Romans 10 verse 14, it says, "How, then, can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard?" Carlo understood this need to reach people, especially the youth, in a language they could understand, through the internet. Carlo's ability to bridge the gap between faith and technology is one of the reasons why he is such an important role model for today's youth. He demonstrated that you don't have to reject the modern world to live a life of holiness. Instead, you can use its tools to serve God and spread His message. Much like St. Paul, who used the roads of the Roman Empire to spread the gospel far and wide, Carlo used the digital highways of the internet to bring the good news to people all over the world. In Mark 16, verse 15, Jesus commands, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." Carlo took this command seriously, using his technological skills to share God's love. Despite his technological talents, Carlo remained humble and grounded. He never sought fame or recognition for his work. His only desire was to serve God and help others grow in their faith. Carlo often said, "All people are born as originals, but many die as photocopies." He encouraged others to live authentically and fully for God, using their unique talents to make a difference in the world. This message resonates deeply with young people today who are often pressured to conform. In 1 Peter 4 verse 10, it says, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." Carlo lived this verse every day of his life. Carlo's deep faith was not just intellectual. It was deeply personal and relational. He loved attending Mass, praying the Rosary, and spending time in front of the Blessed Sacrament. For Carlo, these were not just religious practices. They were moments of intimate communion with God. In John 15 verse 5, Jesus says, "I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit." Carlo's life bore much fruit because he remained close to God, drawing strength and inspiration from his daily relationship with Christ. One of the most remarkable aspects of Carlo's life was how he approached his battle with leukemia. Diagnosed at the age of 15, Carlo accepted his illness with incredible grace and faith. Rather than becoming bitter or angry, he offered his suffering for the Church, the Pope, and the souls in purgatory. In 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, Paul writes, "But he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness.'" Carlo understood this deeply, trusting that God's strength would shine through his weakness. His faith during this time became a powerful witness to those around him, showing that even in the face of suffering, God's love and peace prevail. Carlo's death on October 12, 2006, left a profound impact on everyone who knew him, but it did not mark the end of his influence. His story began to spread far beyond his local community, inspiring people around the world. In 2020, he was beatified by Pope Francis, who recognized Carlo as a model of holiness for young people in our digital age. The Pope referred to Carlo as someone who shows that the internet and social media can be spaces of connection and evangelization when used for good. In Philippians 2 verse 15, it says, "So that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky." Carlo truly shines like a star, leading others to Christ through his example. Carlo's beatification was not just a celebration of his life, but a call to action for all young people to live out their faith boldly. He showed that sainthood is not something reserved for the distant past or for the elderly. Holiness is attainable for everyone, even in our modern, technology-driven world. In 1 Timothy 4 verse 12, Paul encourages young believers, saying, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." Carlo lived this message to the fullest, setting an example for youth everywhere. Carlo Acutis' legacy continues to grow, touching the lives of countless people who are inspired by his story. His love for God, his use of technology for evangelization, and his unwavering faith even in the face of suffering make him a powerful intercessor and role model for today's generation. As we reflect on his life, we are reminded that holiness is not out of reach. Carlo's story teaches us that we can use our unique gifts and talents to serve God, no matter where we are or what challenges we face. Carlo Acutis' life serves as a powerful reminder that holiness is attainable for everyone, no matter your age or the era in which you live. His unwavering faith, love for the Eucharist, and innovative use of technology continue to inspire people around the world. Carlo's journey shows us that even in our modern world, we can live a life deeply rooted in God's love, embracing our faith and using our unique talents for His glory. His story calls us to deepen our own relationship with God and trust in His divine plan. If Carlo's life has touched your heart, take a moment to ask for his intercession in your prayers. Leave your prayer intentions in the comments below, and let us join together in faith, seeking God's grace through the example of this remarkable